Hi, and welcome to the presentation. Thanks for watching. So in the past few videos, we've had sort of our introduction to reading music, and we've had kind of an overview of what a time signature is and, how you think about a time signature. And I've shown you three different types of notes. So now I think this is a great time for our first example. So this is going to be EX number 1. So this is just going to be a rhythmic example. So we're not worried about pitch, and we're just really going to say ba on the rhythm for right now. And I'm going to show you kind of an overview of what we're going to be doing in all of our subsequent videos to help us figure out what a rhythm sounds like. So for this first video, or for this first example, we're going to be in common time, so we're going to be in 4/4 time. And this is going to be a 2-measure example. So what that means is that we're going to have one bar, and this will be the space that the first bar occupies. And then we're going to have a bar line. And then we're going to have a second bar of music. And then we're going to have our end. And that's it. So, anyway, what this time signature means, so we've got a 4/4 time signature, which means we've got 4 beats in the measure, and those beats are going to be from the quarter note because we have a 4 in the bottom number. And remember our rule that we would take this bottom number, put 1 over the bottom number, and that's a quarter, so that means that a quarter note is going to get the beat, is what this means. And for right now, I'm going to write in what we call a metronome marking below. Normally a metronome marking would go above this. It might look a little messy if I write it above, so I'm going to write our metronome marking in below. The metronome marking is pretty much going to tell us how many beats per minute there are. And this is the same if, I don't know if you're into fitness or if you're a nurse or anything, or you take your pulse often, but the BPM that we talk about here, it's the same BPM that you would talk about if you were talking about how fast your heart's beating. So we're going to set this at a pretty low BPM, musically speaking, and actually heart rate speaking too. We're going to set this at quarter note is equal to, let's say, 50 BPM for right now. And I'll actually write in. Normally, you won't see the BPM after a metronome marking. You'll normally just see quarter note equals 50. But for right now, I'm going to write in BPM just so you know that this means quarter note is equal to 50 beats per minute. So let's make up some rhythms for the first measure. So we know that we have to have 4 beats in this measure, and a beat is equal to 1 quarter note down here. So for our first measure, why don't we just write 4 quarter notes? And then we'll figure out what that sounds like. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And now let's make up something else for our second measure. Well, let's say we'll start out with a quarter note, but then we're going to move on our second beat in this measure. Instead of another quarter note, we'll have a half note like that. So we've got open head here, that means half note, as opposed to all these other heads, these are all closed heads. So open head means it's a half note, which means it gets 2 beats in 4/4 time. So then we've only got one more beat in this measure to fill up, and that'll be beat 4. And that's it, we're done. So now comes the question of, what does this sound like? Well, we're going to try to figure that out right now, and one of the things that we're going to do to help us figure that out is we're going to number these beats. So we've got 4 beats in a measure, So we're going to number the beats in both of these measures 1 through 4. So here we go. Here's the first one. This is the first quarter note that we have in the measure, so it happens on beat 1. Then we move on, second quarter note in the measure right here, and this happens on beat 2. Then, and that fills up all of beat 2. This filled up all of beat 1, this filled up all of beat 2, and now we move on. This quarter note happens on beat 3. This quarter note, and this fills up all of beat 3, so then this one happens on beat 4. And so that's our measure. So we've got four beats of 4 quarter notes in this measure. So we've got beats 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So now we're going to move on to the second measure, and we're going to start over again. We're going to start over again on 1. So here we go. This first quarter note, that is beat 1. Now we've got a half note, though. So this is the first time we've seen a half note in a piece of music. So we know that this quarter note fills up all of beat 1. So this half note has to start on beat 2. But then what happens? What are we doing on beat 3 here? Because is there still music going on here in beat 3? Well, yes, there is, because you would be holding this note. You would hold this over beat 3, pretty much. Instead of all of these notes, you would just play them for 1 beat, hold them for 1 beat. This half note is going to get held over through beat 3. So this beat 3 actually exists right there, and I've heard this referred to. I remember my old band director used to call this no man's land. So beat 3 is in no man's land right here. And then, because a half note is worth 2 beats in 4/4 time, so we go 1, 2, 3, and this half note fills up all of beats 2 and 3. So this quarter note happens on beat 4. Okay? Now, one other thing, because we're holding this over so we start playing on beat 2, or you could say we attack the note, or we articulate the note on beat 2, but we just hold it over into beat 3. So one of the things I'm going to do now in green is I'm just going to draw a down arrow for a downbeat. So we're to show you all the places that we're going to attack the note, all the places that we're going to articulate the note. So on the first beat, we're going to have our green down arrow because we articulate there. Same thing, beat 2. Articulate there. We articulate there. We articulate on beat 4. We articulate on beat 1. And we articulate on beat 2. But then what happens on beat 2? Or actually, what happens rather on beat 3? Well, we're holding on beat 3. So this gets held over through beat 3. So we're not articulating here. But then we articulate again on 4. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm kind of running out of time, but I think I've got enough time left to do this. I'm going to go to my online metronome. I don't know if I've introduced this yet. It's in the kind of the overall channel introduction, I think. But this is, if you do a search for metronome, a Google search for metronome, this is the second hit that pops up. It's from this company, 7thstring.com. Everything they make is absolutely fantastic. So anyway, our metronome marking is 50. So I'm going to use the slider, get us down to 50. And now I'm going to turn it on. Okay? And now I'm going to sing through this on da. Da, 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 da. One more time. Da, 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 da. So anyway, that is our first example. That's what it sounds like. So anyway, hopefully you found that informative, and in the subsequent videos we'll do a bunch more examples just like this, and hopefully, it's okay if you're confused right now. Just keep working through the playlist, and hopefully you'll catch on with more examples. Anyway, see you soon.